Hey, I'm Katie. It's like we just met, right? Our new series that we're starting out with 2022 is called Renewal. We're really excited about it. We're going to have 4 awesome parts to this series, and I'm excited to bring the first part, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to give it away quite yet. But let's talk about renewal. Like, what the heck does renewal mean? Well, in the back of my Bible, there's this glossary, and when I don't know what things mean, I tend to look them up, okay? So I know, like, okay, renew, like you go to the library to renew a book if you're a reader. I never did that because I always finish my books real quickly. I don't need to renew anything. I love to read, right? So I wanted to know, like, what it means in a spiritual aspect. What does it mean, like, for a Christian to be renewed? So some of the definitions that my Bible gave me means to restore freshness. I love that. I love the mental picture of restoring freshness. Restoring freshness. Hello. It's been a while since I've preached. Can you notice? It's like, when you're doing laundry. I don't know about you, but I tend to let my laundry pile up a whole lot. Brenda, plug your ears. Don't listen, okay? It's a very big disappointment to my mother. But I let my laundry pile up, and then I finally wash it, and I get it out of the dryer, and it smells so good. It's so fresh. And so renewal is like when you get your fresh laundry out of the dryer, and it smells so good. That's what it brings to my mind. How about to restore vigor? That's a big word. They always tell us to be vigorous in our classroom. And I'm like, okay. But that's what renewal is, to restore our vigor, to restore to perfection. Ooh, we don't really like the word perfection, but I don't think it means that we have to be perfect. I think God's working on making us perfect. It's not something that we have to do. It's something that Jesus has already done for us. And what about to make new spiritually? Oh, that's fun, right? And so today, as we're talking about renewal, I actually have a step leading up to renewal. I'm going to be talking about recovery. All right, recovery is a big word. I'm going to channel my inner Miriam. If you don't know Miriam, she kind of does this class on about, like, getting rid of your spiritual, things that you've gone through. It was a great class to go through, so I'm going to channel my inner Miriam here, okay? I'm going to try my best to talk about recovery, because here's what I believe. Recovery is a requirement for renewal. In other words, we need to heal. We do. For many of us, we're still recovering from 2020, and it's now 2022. We didn't take the moment, we didn't take the time to recover. And so as we begin a new year, one of the things that a lot of people like to do is start these resolutions. Anybody a resolution person? You're not going to raise your hand in church because you're not going to be that person. I'll tell you, I'm usually a resolution person. I like to make goals, okay? Now, I'm not making any crazy kind of goals that I can't meet because I hate failing. As a Enneagram number 1, I do not want to fail, all right? So I'm not going to make any big-time goals, but I do like to make some goals that I want to accomplish for the new year. So I was thinking, what are some goals that we're making in 2022? Well, CNN actually published an article, whether you watch CNN or not, doesn't matter, all right? But these are the goals that CNN says that people are making for this year. All right, they're going to exercise more, right? Notice they're not saying they're going to get a gym membership. They're just going to exercise more, whatever that means. That means that, I'm going to run more to my refrigerator, right? I'm going to eat healthier. Not saying that I'm going to go on a diet, all right? I'm just going to eat healthier. I'm going to eliminate 1 M&M per day, all right? Save more money. Now, KV needs to do this big time. I want to save more money because let me tell you, y'all need to pray for recovery for my dog because I took her to the vet twice this week, and it's not looking good. So she needs some big time recovery, okay? She's going to cost me an arm and a leg, let me tell you. Spending time with family. Man, isn't it sad to have that as a resolution? Yeah, it is. Getting a new job. I'm praying kind of against that a little bit because 2021 I had like 17 jobs. So I'm going to try not to get as many this year, okay? And quit smoking. That is not on mine. I don't smoke, but maybe that's on one of yours. I like resolutions. I think they're fun. I think it's great. However, the problem with resolutions is that so many of us are looking ahead to the future that we forget to stop and process the past. Okay, we're all in the same boat. Okay, great. Now, if I had $1 for the amount of time that I've heard people say to me, I'm so done with COVID, I think I'd be rich. I wouldn't have to have that saving money as one of my resolutions. I think we need to process it. Because what a lot of us are doing is we're taking COVID and we're putting it in this little box in our brain and we're locking it away and we're pretending that it's over with, and yet it's still occurring. And yet we're still in the middle of it. See, I don't know about you, but 2021 was one of the hardest years I think I've ever had to go through. I know 2020 was the main part of the pandemic, but something about 2021 was even harder. I remember at the beginning of 2021, Scotty in our staff meetings, he would keep saying, we're not going to go back to normal. It's never going to be normal. And I was like, you need to be quiet because I'm going back to normal. And that's what happened. Our world was thrust back into normal in 2021 because we're done with the COVID. We're going to go back to normal. And yet we didn't process any of it. My year started off in April. I got this kidney stone out of nowhere. I thought I was dying. A lot of you heard that story. That's what kicked my year off. And then towards the end of the year, I had 3 family members die within weeks of each other of COVID. My best friend lost her father. Other people in my life lost people, and it was finally hitting me. This isn't just about COVID. It's about my inability to recover. It's my inability to process what's going on. And then to finish out 2021, I kid you not, we're days ahead from Christmas, and my grandmother falls and breaks her arm. It's like, what now? Right? What else could happen? I don't want to say that because I don't want to start off 2022 like that. You know, one of my favorite authors, her name is Glennon Doyle, and she has this podcast, and she talks about her family a whole lot. And she says when her family's kind of excited but scared, they made a new word for it. They call it skited. I'm a bit skited for 2022. All right. So here's what I figured out. This year, instead of praying for normalcy, instead of praying to go back to normal, I'm going to pray for recovery. That's what I'm going to pray for. If you don't know me at all, you should stay away from me because I'm very accident prone. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. But I was in college. I think some of you have heard this story because I tend to preach a lot about breaking my foot because it was one of these awful things. This is the first bone I ever broke. Somebody knock on some wood for me. Anybody got me? Okay. And so I went to the doctor. So I had to go to the emergency room, get it x-rayed. It was horrible. It was awful. I couldn't even put weight on my foot. And I went to the doctor and he's like, you're going to have to be on crutches because you can't put any pressure on your foot. And you know the next question I asked, right? How long does it take to recover? How long am I going to have to be on these dang crutches for? And my answer to you and his answer to me was, I don't know. That's the problem with recovery. We don't even want to get started because we don't know how long it's going to take. And so like every great person that doesn't want to be on crutches, every morning, I had this awesome boot. They didn't put me in a cast, thank God. They put me in a boot. Every morning, I would strap on that boot and I would try to put pressure on my foot. I don't know why. I guess I enjoy pain. Every morning, I could not walk on it, right? So that's relatable to trauma because we lock it up in our brains. Here's what we do. Something bad happens to us, or maybe we are the wrongdoers. Maybe we do it. That's still trauma. And we put it in our brain. We put it in a file folder and we put it in a filing cabinet in our brain and we lock it up. And then something terrible happens. And now we have to deal with present trauma and past trauma. And that's what I was doing to my foot. I just kept believing that if I just put a little bit of pressure on it, it won't be so bad. Man, I was in that dang boot for like 12 weeks, man. He told me it was going to be like 6. It was more like 12. My foot still be hurting, okay? It doesn't heal well. And that's what happens with our trauma. It doesn't heal well if we don't deal with it. So before we get into like the recovery process, I want to talk a little bit about misconceptions because I think there are quite a bit of misconceptions when we talk about recovery. Misconception number 1, recovery is easy. My mental health care professionals are like, that is not easy at all. On Thursday, I was at home chilling, not doing nothing. I was supposed to be writing a sermon. I was not doing that. And Katie and I were watching Princess Diaries. If you've ever seen Princess Diaries, it's a story about my life. I just don't know that I'm a princess yet. But I really identify with Mia Thermopolis. If you don't know Mia, she's got this crazy thick hair. She's kind of an outcast. I love her to pieces, right? And she has this best friend named Lily, all right? And something happened to Mia's dad. All right. He was a royal. She didn't know it. Her grandma comes into town and she's like, hey, you're a princess. And Mia's like, shut up. And her grandmother gets really offended by that. Kids, don't ever tell your grandmothers to shut up. That's rule number 1, right? And so she finds out she's a princess and she's kind of like thinking about her dad. And her and Lily are riding their electric scooters down the road. And Mia just brings up that she misses her dad. And her friend Lily says, hey, I thought you were over that. Wasn't that like, 2 months ago? Right? We tend to think recovery is easy, especially when we're not the ones going through it. Lily's reply to Mia was 100,000% insensitive. It was 100,000% the wrong thing to say. But it seems easy to recover from your father's death if you're not the one going through it. When I was younger, accident prone, right? We had a tetherball in the backyard, like with the pole and the ball, you know. I don't know why. It's not really a sport I play, but I guess it's a good sport for only children because you can hit it and it comes back around. You don't need anybody else to play with you. Anyways, my friend Brennan had just come over and we were in the backyard playing tetherball. And I kid you not, everything is fine until the pole comes out of the ground and hits me straight in the eye. I kid you not. That is exactly what happened. Like, I'm telling you, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. Stay clear. All right. And I had this huge, massive goose egg on my eyebrow. And needless to say, I've never played tetherball again. It's been years. It's been like 20 plus years since that happened. It's been what? Fill in your blank. How long has it been for you and your trauma? It's been what? 2 months? Aren't you supposed to be over it by now? I should be over it by now. I should not have trauma from that tetherball, but I will never play tetherball again because I know that pole can come out of the ground. I don't know how, but it's coming out and it's going to hit me, so I'm not going to do it. I should be over it by now. Let's talk about another misconception. Recovery is a one and done type of thing. I wish it was. I wish it was. In 2012, I had my rib removed. And then in 2015, I had to have another one removed. And I was right in the middle of student teaching. It was my senior year of college. I just wanted to graduate, right? My doctor was like, it would be smart, you know, if you needed to take the year off, you know, everybody would understand. And I was like, heck no, I'm going to get it done. So I did. I got a rib removed. I was out of school for 2 weeks. I started back with half days and I finished my student teaching. God bless. And then I was in a surfing class because they were like, you're not going to graduate. You don't have enough PE credits. And I was like, surfing. Mistake. The board came up and hit me straight in my nose. I'm telling you, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me, right? I swear it broke, but that's besides the point, right? And then we get back from the week of surfing. Everything is fine. Everything is great. We don't go to Walt Disney World. We go to Harry Potter World in Florida. We stay a week. It's a blast. It's the most fun I've ever had. I get home. I'm sitting in the recliner. I'm watching TV. I move my shoulder a little bit to resituate. And just like that, I'm not recovered. I did everything right. I went to physical therapy. I went surfing. Like, I was in the big waves, like doing this whole motion, and I move in the recliner and something in my back shoulder area popped and I was in excruciating pain from the spasms that were occurring in my shoulder. Recovery is not a one and done type of thing. Even when we talk about spiritualness, it's not one and done. You can do all the right things. If you ever meet somebody that's gone to AA or Narcotics Anonymous or any of those processes, it's like, yeah, I finished the program, but I'm still in recovery. Because trauma can easily be re-triggered, especially if we don't deal with it. So this morning, the one point that I need you to understand about all this renewal, all of this stuff, is that recovery is a requirement for renewal. You can't get the freshness without getting out the dirt first. All right? So, Friday, all right, notice today is Sunday, all right, 2 days ago, I still hadn't written this. It is one of the hardest sermons I've had to put together because there's just so much I could say and so little of it could make sense the way I was trying to put it in my brain. I rewrote the thing like 17 times. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, right? But Katie and I were talking and she was like, what about, this story? I'm like, well, I preach on Peter all the time. She's like, what about Paul? I'm like, Scotty preaches on Paul all the time. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then we were reminded of this thing we saw on Twitter. Now, you may hate or love Twitter, but this girl, I don't know her. I have no idea who she is. All right. But she tweeted this. She said, this is your gentle reminder that one time in the Bible, Elijah was like, God, I'm so mad. I want to die. So God said, here's some food. Why don't you have a nap? So Elijah slept, ate, and decided things weren't so bad. Never underestimate the spiritual power of a nap and a snack. There's my message. Thank you so much. No, just kidding. But it's true, right? Sometimes we get so overwhelmed in life. All we need is a nap. All we need is some food, right? Sometimes recovery is not that easy, though. All right, that's kind of a joke, all right? But this story is true. Elijah, he's a prophet, and he's doing what God has told him to do, and it kind of made some people mad. You ever done that? God tells you something to do, and it kind of makes people mad? Just be a woman preacher. You'll understand, all right? So we're going to be in 1 Kings today, and this is the story that girl just summed up in her tweet. Then he went alone in the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. Then he lay down and he slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, get up and eat. Elijah, get up, dude. You're hungry. You're not making sense because you're hungry. Anybody else get a little bit hangry sometimes? Yep, get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank, and he took another nap. Man, he was tired. Trauma can make you tired. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. Get up and eat. Get up and take a nap, or the journey will be too much for you. Sometimes in our recovery process, we need to take a nap. We need to get some sleep. We need to rest. Because trauma can be so exhausting. If you've ever read the Bible, any story, it's a whole book about people that are in need of recovery, people who are in trauma and need recovery. I think about Abraham and Sarah. God made this awesome covenant with Abraham, and he's like, you're going to have so many descendants. Abraham's like 100, and he's like, what? How am I going to have a baby when I'm 100? And his wife is 90, right? And so they do end up having a child. His name is Isaac. And then God sometimes just doesn't make sense to me, right? God immediately is like, I need you to take Isaac up to this mountain, and I need you to sacrifice him. And like Abraham does it. He has the knife. He's about to kill his one and only child. And God says, whoa, wait. I don't need you to do that. And we can talk about the recovery of Abraham and Sarah, but have you ever thought about the recovery process for young Isaac? Well, he sees his dad about to kill him. Like, holy moly, if I saw that, I'd be like, we can't be friends. No thanks, And can you imagine the recovery process Isaac had to go through with God? You wanted my dad to kill me? Really? And now the Bible doesn't state really anything about Isaac's recovery process. I read a lot about Isaac. It seems to me that Isaac had a great relationship with his father. But I imagine that the recovery took a little bit. There's another story in the New Testament. There's this dude named Lazarus. And Lazarus has some friends named Mary and Martha. And Jesus is his friend too. And Lazarus is dying. So Mary and Martha send word to Jesus, hey, your homie Lazarus, he's dying. Can you come? And Jesus is like, I'll be there shortly. Well, 4 days later, he arrives, and they tell him, man, Lazarus has been in this tomb dead for 4 days. And I just want to read this one part to you because it just did something to my heart. Mary and Martha both said this to Jesus at different times. They said, Lord, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. Dang, God, if you had just been here. Dang, Jesus, if you had just shown up. Well, if you don't know the story about Lazarus, Jesus gets real mad and he mourns, and then he raises Lazarus back from the dead. So how do we begin to recover? I think about Mary and Martha and how they might have recovered. The Bible doesn't say anything about how they recovered from that. Can you imagine, like, your best friend is dead, your brother's dead, and then he's back to life? Like, you got to recover, right? Because you're mourning, you're grieving, you're having this like gut-wrenching process of your brother dying, and now he's alive. So how do we begin to recover? This is probably the hardest part to put it together because honestly, I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about how individually you recover. But here's what I know. You pray. Yes, I would like to take the cliche Christian answer for 100, please. It's true. This sucks. Like, this is all the advice you can give to me. I came here for, like a really good sermon and you tell me to pray? Great. What I've noticed about in my own life when I'm in the process of recovery is that I can't even begin to recover if I don't begin to pray. Because my filing cabinet is not only locked, it's like mega locked. And then I have all these walls in front of it, so I don't have to deal with it, and so I don't even let God touch it. So in order to begin to unlock my filing cabinet and to put down the walls, I got to start to pray. Many of you know, because I've preached about it a time or two, and I'm a very open book when I'm up here. I don't know why. When I'm a regular person, I'm not very open. Sorry, not sorry. But a few years ago, my grandpa got paralyzed, and that was really hard for me because he's a really good dude. He's he's my best friend, right? Like all grandpas should be. There's something special about grandpas. Let's just say it. They're great. And I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't recover from his paralysis because I couldn't talk to God about it. Because I had locked it away in this filing cabinet that I didn't let anyone touch, not even God. And the moment that I began to recover is when I began to pray for him. When I began to pray about it. So step one, in order to recover, I think you need to pray. And I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe it's short and sweet. God, like I've got some stuff in me. I'm not really ready to open it yet. Maybe that's your first prayer. God, I got some stuff in me. I'm not ready to open it. Maybe that's your second prayer. It might take a long time. How long does it take to recover? I don't know. It might just be something small to start out with. Second thing is I think you got to be open. And that's where the prayer came in for me, because without the prayer part, I wasn't very open with my struggle and talking to God about it. I think you got to be open. Another way to say it is you got to surrender it. Now, I'm a history teacher, right? And we're going into battle. I am not about to surrender. I used to think that surrender, and even when we're talking about spiritualness, I used to think that surrender meant losing. Like if I have to surrender my life to Jesus, I'm somehow losing. Kind of twisted thinking, right? Sorry, I'm a little bit behind in my notes. I was on a roll and then I forgot to, What if we lose our past trauma? What if surrender in this moment means that the only loss that you're getting is by losing your trauma? What if you're gaining healing, but you got to lose your trauma first? I don't know. I think the third step that you got to have is to seek guidance. God made a doctor, his name is Dr. Pearl, and he takes out rib bones for a living. God created Susie to help counsel people. I think if you're going to be going through your trauma, God's a great help, but I think you need somebody to sit down with you and help you too. Because sometimes you just need to know that you're not going out of your mind. Sometimes you need someone to say, yeah, that was a real sucky thing those people did to you. Yeah, your trauma sucks. Sometimes you need a professional to say that to you, because sometimes I get in so into my head about my trauma that I'm like, I deserved it. No, you didn't deserve it. Seek guidance, because recovery is a requirement for renewal. If you want that freshness, if you want that straight out of the dryer, smell good, you got to get through the crud first. You got to get through the crud first. And the most beautiful part of recovery is that it's a state of grace. You're allowing yourself, once you start praying, once you start surrendering, once you start seeking guidance, you're allowing yourself to be in the most vulnerable position. And you know what God does with vulnerability? He pours in grace. He pours in so much grace. Grace upon grace upon grace. Recovery is a state of grace. Don't you want to be in a state of grace for 2022? Don't you want to finally recover from those things that happened to you when you were 5 years old and now you're 60 years old? So for 55 years, you've had it locked up your whole life. I think today is a great day to reach a new freshness. Today is a great day to feel fully recovered. And you know what I love about the story about Mary and Martha? You know, they said that, Jesus, if you had only shown up. You know what's cool about that is that they were being open. You can be open with God. You can be open with Jesus. He already knows your trauma. He already knows it happened to you. He didn't create it, but he knows it happened. Why not be open about it? The amount of times I said, Lord Jesus, I don't know what you doing, and I'm pretty pissed off about it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say pissed off, but here we are. 2022, you know what I'm saying? I got to get you laughing because it's been pretty serious today. You know what I'm saying? I'm not good at serious, you know? In order to recover, you got to pray about it. Pray about those things that have happened to you. Start praying that God's going to unlock those things in your mind that you haven't recovered from. I don't know what that looks like for you. It may be really difficult. It may be really hard, and I understand that. I know it's hard to be open. In 2022, man, it's hard to meet a very empathetic person. It's hard. That's why you got to seek guidance. You got to seek a professional. If you need help with that, we would love to help you. If you need help and you want to seek guidance and you don't know where to begin, we would love to help you. Let's make 2022 a year of recovery. Let me pray for you. God, I just thank you for the people that showed up this morning, God, and as they are on their road to renewal, man, the first step is recovery. We pray for anyone in here that has had trauma locked away in their minds for years and years and years, and they've never touched it. They don't want to touch it. God, I pray that you begin to slowly help them through it, to slowly open up those file folders and to remind them, man, your grace is sufficient. When we are our weakest, you are at your strongest. And God, I pray for anyone in this room that needs help, that they seek guidance, that they feel comfortable enough to get the help that they need to get that renewal. Because you're the only one that can bring it. Lord, we love you and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Come back for next week. We're going to be talking about rest.